We are at such a pivotal moment in time. So we just had, and will continue to have, this major astrological event, namely Pluto entering Aquarius, right? Big deal, big stuff. Did a video all about it. This is it if you haven't checked it out already. And then to add insult to injury, we're gonna have a powerful full moon in Leo, which is gonna be exactly opposite this major astrological event. One thing is for certain, the time for change is now. And if you are not synced up, if you are not in alignment with who you are and what is truly in your heart, this time period is gonna be really uncomfortable for you, all right? So in this video, I'll be discussing everything you need to know about the upcoming full moon in Leo and what you can do to make the most of it. So stick around, you definitely don't wanna miss this. Hello, my loves. As always, I hope that this video finds you well and in excellent spirits. If this is our first time meeting, welcome. My name is Mel. I'm a professional astrologer, healer, and intuitive, and I'm the founder of divinefeminineworks, where I help people unlock their divinity and discover their magic. And as always, if you are returning, welcome back. So today's video is all about the upcoming full moon in Leo, going down on Thursday, January 25th at 12:53 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So full moons are always an interesting time. On the one hand, they seem to uncover things that have been hidden, so it can be a very emotionally charged time. At the same time, or maybe conversely, it also signifies endings. It is the culmination of the lunar cycle, and it's typically when we get to see the fruits of our labor or when our manifestations come to fruition. Either way, full moons are always illuminating and enlightening. And this one in particular is no exception. Like I mentioned in the intro, not only is it a full moon, so we have all the normal full moon-ness, it's going to be opposite Pluto in Aquarius, which is a huge deal astrologically speaking. So we are at this precipice where things are really changing, like in real time. And this particular full moon is going to highlight particularly what needs to be changed right now. And it's going to be really heart-centered, and it's going to really urge us to be our authentic selves. All right. So without further ado, let's get into the details and see exactly what this full moon has in store for us. So first things first, let's cover the basics. Let's talk about Leo energy and let's talk about full moon energy. So I pretty much summed up what full moon energy is like, or the energy signature of full moons. It's about culmination and illumination. Think of just a full moon generally. When you look in the sky and the moon is completely illuminated, it sort of signifies a time where what was hidden or what was in the dark sort of comes to light. It brings our attention and our consciousness to perhaps where we've been experiencing imbalance in our lives. So astrologically speaking, a full moon is when the sun and the moon are opposite. Think of it like a seesaw, and they're at different ends of this seesaw. So on the one hand, we have our consciousness. On the other hand, we have our consciousness as evidenced by the sun, and we have our emotions and our subconscious as evidenced by the moon. And they seem to be at extremes during the time of the full moon. Now, oppositions are all about balance, right? You have two ends of the spectrum, and it's like trying to find balance on a seesaw. So when full moons occur, typically it's a time when we see what is out of balance in our lives. Now, Leo, generally speaking, on the astrological wheel is opposite Aquarius. So this is where this opposition or this showdown for this full moon is taking place. So Leo has a lot to do with our heart. It has a lot to do with our emotions, our passions. Whereas Aquarius has a lot to do with our thoughts, our intellect, and our mindset. So it's almost like, that proverbial struggle between our head and our heart. And this is what's going to be playing out at this full moon. Then you throw in Pluto having just entered into Aquarius, and it really makes for a very transformative time. All right. But regardless, I feel like this is going to be one of those full moons where it's like, where are we too much in our head? Or perhaps where are we too much in our heart? And how can we find balance between the two? And speaking of heart, when it comes to Leo energy, Leo has everything to do with heart. Every time I utter the word Leo, I'm always thinking of the cowardly lion in the Wizard of Oz, right? Even though I really think the lion should have been the one, the lion was looking for courage, right? And the Tin Man was looking for heart. I feel like the lion should have been looking for heart because lions and hearts go like this, especially when we're talking about Leo energy, okay? Apart from being about the heart, Leo energy is all about courage. It's all about regality, right? Leo is the sign of the king or the queen. Leo energy can also be very egotistical, right? Leo energy is very main character energy. It can be attention seeking. It can be very much, look at me. This is what I have to do. I'm the star of the show. You all are the supporting cast, right? So Leo can be, I don't want to say headstrong, but Leo can be a little egotistical, very dramatic. But deep down, Leo energy, it's warm, it's generous, it's lighthearted, and it's heart-centered. So these are sort of the themes that are going to be playing out at this full moon. Now, whenever we talk about heart, although Leo is not the sign of relationships, inherent in that Leo energy signature is this undertone of relationships, right? Because when we're talking about love, of course, we're talking about relationships, but importantly, we're also talking about self-love. So love of all kinds may come into our orbit at this full moon, not so much to enjoy, but to examine and to see where our love is, what's truly in our hearts, and do we approach relationships really from a place of mindset and maybe emotional distance? Or are we really all in? And are we really allowing ourselves to be vulnerable and to let people into our hearts? All right. So again, interesting kind of energy. So now that we've talked about the basics, let's talk numerology and see what this particular full moon has in store for us. I love examining numerology when it comes to full moons and new moons because it always gives you more information. So we look at the degree of the full moon to determine the numerology. And this full moon is going down at 5 degrees of Leo. All right. And so this full moon is sponsored by the number 5. So when it comes to numerology, 5 is a mover and a shaker. When we think about change, when we think about the need to be adaptable, when we think about Papa was a Rolling Stone, typically that is associated with the number 5. So, like I said in the intro, this is really the time for change. But it's going to require you to be a little light on your feet too, because number 5 energy, it's quick. Okay. So when it comes to sort of the basics of the numerology of the number 5, like I said, it's about change, adaptability, shifting, sort of being fluid, right? The energy signature of the number 5 is associated with Leo because Leo is the 5th sign of the zodiac, number 1. Number 2 is also associated with Gemini and Virgo. That change and adaptability energy is very much associated with Mercury. And of course, Gemini and Virgo are ruled by Mercury. So again, this energy of having to be quick on your feet, having to shift, perhaps unexpectedly, being adaptable to changes around you. Also, this energy of wanting to change, like this energy of inherent change within you. Maybe it's not your world that's shifting. Maybe it's your desire to shift your world, right? And what a perfect time to do this as we're experiencing a major shift with Pluto in Aquarius, all right? So this is definitely going to be a full moon that may be a little jarring. It may require some change of plans. It may really have you thinking about making a change in your life. Either way, there's a bit of momentum that is inherent in the energy of this full moon, all right? Now, when it comes to the tarot, the number 5 is associated with the Hierophant card. Now, the Hierophant represents institutions. Typically, you would see like a church figure depicted on the Hierophant card. And so inherent in the energy of this new moon, as evidenced by the number 5, there's this shift away from tradition. There's a shift away from perhaps the tried and true. There may even be a shift from institutions, perhaps maybe even religious or even spiritual institutions, right? But either way, there is this shift from the traditional. And this sort of builds on the energy of Pluto going into Aquarius, because Aquarius is all about that. Aquarius is like, listen, the structure that was here before, we're decimating it right now. And so not only are we experiencing this on, I guess, a societal level with Pluto and Aquarius, we're being introduced to it on a personal level at this particular time with this full moon in Leo, okay? So it's really important that you remain flexible and open-minded at this full moon, because what you may learn, what may be uncovered, may spark change in your environment or within yourself. There's also going to be this theme of detachment, right? Because when we think about change and adaptability, it's very hard to change when you're attached to something, when you are relying on something, perhaps something that you've been relying on for a long time. So there's going to be a level of detachment that may occur at this full moon. Now, perhaps this is a full moon where you're seeing something culminate. So wherever Leo is in your natal chart is maybe where you have something that is completed, a manifestation that has come to fruition. And with the number 5 for this full moon, it's almost like you're going to be asking yourself, all right, now what? So I accomplished this. What do I do now? And perhaps this accomplishment, perhaps this manifestation that has come to fruition is going to change your life, or is going to require you to change, perhaps in a way that you've never changed before. One thing is for certain, inherent in this number 5 for this full moon in Leo is this sort of notion of out with the old, in with the new. It's time to really adapt to what is coming. It's time to get with the new program. And like I said, I feel like we're experiencing this collectively with Pluto and Aquarius, and we're going to be experiencing it personally at this full moon in Leo. So this is the time to put your shoes on, get ready, right? Because it's time to make some moves. And again, be flexible and adaptable, because the way that things may change may not be in alignment with how you think they're going to change or what you're hoping for, right? This may require you to be quick on your feet, all right? Not bad stuff. However, it may be jarring for some, especially people that are really attached to certain things, or people who are really not good with change, all right? And what's interesting is that Leo is a fixed sign. So change is sort of not Leo's thing. So if you have a lot of fixed energy in your chart, you may find this full moon, again, to be a little jarring, because it's going to require you to sort of move past your comfort zone. Or I'm not even getting moving past your comfort zone. I'm getting like, playing dodgeball. Not to say that you're going to get hit with something. I don't mean that at all. I mean that, you got to be quick on your feet. You got to anticipate what's coming and move in the right direction. That's really a major undertone for this full moon in Leo. All right. So now that we've talked about the numerology, let's talk astrology and see exactly what's going on at this full moon. So when it comes to the astrology for this full moon in Leo, I've already mentioned before that the full moon in Leo is going to be opposite Pluto in Aquarius. And this is a very big deal. Now, how this is going to play out for us is Pluto in Aquarius is a new era, a new age full of technology, information. It's a new mindset. It's a new collective consciousness. Now, the full moon in Leo, remember I said full moons have a lot to do with showing us where in our lives we're experiencing imbalance. So the full moon in Leo may show you where you are adhering to things that are about to become outdated. And maybe you've been attached to these things out of tradition, right? Because of certain institutions, because of society, right? There are a myriad of reasons why you could be attached to these things. And the change that needs to occur at this full moon is requiring you to detach from these things. But not only are you detaching, you are really getting in touch with your heart, what's really in your heart, what you really want. Now, Pluto in Aquarius has a lot to do with humanity and the collective. And as Pluto gets more comfortable in Aquarius, we're going to find people really finding their tribe. People who really resonate on the same frequency are really going to be banding together. Now, what's going to separate, because this has been happening over millennia, right? Like everyone sort of gravitates to who they vibrate with, right? But the difference this time around with Pluto going into Aquarius is that if you're on some fuck shit, if you're on some if you're on some inauthenticity, if you want some fake it till you make it, you're not going to find your tribe, or you're just going to be stuck with people doing the same thing and getting nowhere. This collective consciousness is moving toward a place of authenticity, and that authenticity is built in the sign of Leo, because Leo is all about expressing yourself authentically. As a matter of fact, it represents the courage to express yourself authentically. So this full moon in Leo is going to show you perhaps where you've been attached to things, like I said, that are becoming outdated, or to institutions that no longer resonate with who you truly are, and having the courage to really follow your heart. But it's also going to be a time where it's really time to step up and be a leader. One of the things with Pluto and Aquarius is that it's bringing together humanity, but it's allowing humanity to express itself authentically and having the courage to do that. And in being so, being sovereign, like a king, right? AKA Leo energy. So this full moon opposite Pluto and Aquarius, it's really going to get you to get real and understand what's truly in your heart, and move from that place. And in doing so, that's when you're going to start vibrating with different people and finding your tribe and forming a new collective with a new collective consciousness. All right. The other important astrological thing going on at the time of this full moon is that the moon is actually going to be square to Jupiter in Taurus. Now, both Taurus and Leo are fixed signs. So this is sort of this fixed energy, this stable energy, this unmovable energy that's being jostled by this full moon, since again, the full moon is happening at the 5th degree, and 5 has to do with change and adaptability. Now, Jupiter in Taurus just wants to expand us and wants to expand us past our comfort zone. So our emotions may want to keep us stuck, or may want to keep us attached to certain things, while Jupiter just wants to expand us and wants us to move out of this fixed energy and expand into something new beyond our comfort zone. So you may feel like, all right, I understand that what I've been attached to, or, you know, what's in my heart, or, you know, no. So you may feel like on the one hand, all right, I'm ready for change. I'm ready to venture beyond my comfort zone. Meanwhile, your emotions are like, not yet. Not yet. It's almost like, you know, when you got to jump into, I don't know if any of you were really into swimming, but I used to swim competitively as a kid. And when I first started swimming, getting in the water, especially the deep end, was so scary. And I'd be like, okay, I know I got to get in, but I'd dip in my toe and be like, I don't know, I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready yet. I don't know. I want to stay here. I'm a little scared. That's how many of you may be feeling with the moon being square to Jupiter, right? It's knowing the bigger picture, knowing where we're going, knowing that things are changing, and really thinking like, yeah, I'm down with this change. But your emotions are like, I'm scared. I don't know. Right? Hence why that Leo energy is like, you have to have the courage to do this. It's not like it's something, for some it may be, I don't want to use the word catastrophic, but I do want to use the word of, it may be a big deal, right? To facilitate this change, to actually change, to take those steps to change, right? And Leo's pushing you. It's like, listen, it's time. It's time. I know you're scared. Feel the fear and do it anyway. That's what Leo says. That's the energy signature of Leo. And that's how we may be feeling with this full moon in Leo. All right. So again, it's maybe highly emotional, not just because of all this that's going on, but full moons tend to be emotional, right? They don't call them lunatics for nothing, because when there's a full moon, that's when the crazies come out. That's when we're extra sensitive. People can be very moody, right? Feel the fear and do it anyway. That is what this full moon is teaching us. All right. So now that we've talked astrology, let's talk manifestation. How should we be working with this energy at this full moon in Leo? All right. Let's get into it. So as I said before, full moons are about illumination and culmination, right? So when it comes to manifesting, full moons are not the time to be manifesting. Full moons are all about observation. So if you find that the full moon brings culmination for you, right? If your manifestation has come to fruition at this full moon, you get to enjoy it, right? You get to bask in it, but it's also like, all right, what's next? Sort of aligning yourself to the next thing, or however this manifestation or the fruition of this manifestation has entered your life, maybe things are going to change, and sort of being adaptable and amenable to that change, right? But by and large, full moons are very illuminating and enlightening. And if you're worried about what ritual should I be doing, you kind of miss the point, because it's all about observation. What is this full moon trying to show you? What information has come to light? What are you learning about yourself, your world, the people in your life? All of that stuff becomes known to you, becomes apparent to you under the light of the full moon. So it's really important that you take the time to just observe. Observe without any sort of pretense. Observe without attaching meaning to everything. Allow what presents itself to merely serve as information, so you know how to move. Remember, I said this is the full moon. You're going to want to put your shoes on, because you may have to make some changes. You may have to make some adjustments. You got to be light on your feet, right? Watch before you make any moves. Don't just fall into the trap of, oh, things are shifting, let me just go with it. Nah, observe first and then make your moves. What is the phrase that comes to mind is measure twice, cut once. So when it comes to full moons, it's all about observation and planning, right? Because now we're about to close things out. Between the full moon and the new moon is when we start to get rid of what we no longer need. And again, that sort of plays into this idea of change and adaptability. Like, we're realizing what's not serving us. We're realizing what's not in alignment with our heart's truest desires. We're realizing who may not be in alignment with our authentic selves. Because don't forget, this full moon in Leo is urging you to really be authentic and shine in your uniqueness, right? And so this full moon may show you who is no longer in alignment with who you truly are. And then it's time for you to make adjustments as necessary. So again, when it comes to how to use this energy, observation is going to be the name of the game. All right. So now let's get into some channeled messages that Spirit would love to impart upon us for this full moon in Leo. All right. Spirit had a lot to say concerning this full moon in Leo. And I have to warn you, some of these messages are extremely specific. So if you find that it doesn't resonate with you, just let it go. It's not your message. Otherwise, some of the messages seem, maybe they don't necessarily vibe together or make sense, but hey, it's what Spirit has to say. So I'm just the messenger. All right. So first up, we have, and I'm looking at my notes in case you see me looking down. Learn from past instances when you played small, ignored your heart, or repressed your desires. So like I said, this full moon is going to show us where we haven't been authentically ourselves, or where we haven't followed our hearts. And so when this illumination presents itself, part of the observation is going to be thinking about when in the past we've played small, when we've repressed our desires, or where we went contrary to what is truly in our hearts. What did we learn by doing that? So moving forward, making this change, it's sort of going to be self-correcting from before, when we didn't necessarily live our truest selves. And now that we have the ability to do so, what did we learn from that last time? All right. Next up, it's time to find your inner light and be an example to others. A process that begins now and culminates at the Virgo full moon next month. All right. So here's the thing with Leo energy. Leo is ruled by the sun, and the sun shines regardless. The sun cannot help but shine, and we cannot help but take notice of it shining. And when we are our authentic selves, when we follow our hearts, when we are aligned with our hearts, we shine, whether we realize it or not. And it's sort of like we step into a leadership role because we kind of become an example to other people as we live our authentic lives, or as we live as our authentic selves. And so this is the process that we're going to be developing between now and the full moon in February, which is going to be in Virgo. So I feel like over the next month, a lot of us are going to be working on this. A lot of us are going to be doing the internal work to really figure out who we are, what we truly like, what our desires are, and most importantly, what is in our hearts. And I feel like the culmination of that will occur at the full moon in Virgo. Okay. Next, this may be a very emotional moon for some. addressing feelings and what's in your heart. Like I said, because we're dealing with matters of the heart, inherently that deals with relationships. So this may be a moon where people feel very sensitive, very emotional, and very much in touch with their feelings. Don't get it twisted. Even though Leo is a fire sign, Leo feels intensely. Leo's feelings burn like 1,000 suns. So many of us may be feeling that way as we tap into this Leo energy for this full moon. There's going to be an intense need for honest and open communication, not just with others, but with ourselves. You know, when we talk about matters of the heart, the first relationship that comes to mind, and the one that's the most important, is the love that you have for yourself. So many may be having these inner dialogue where you're really honest and open about what it is that you want, right? The example that's coming to mind right now is perhaps you come from a culture or a religion where you have arranged marriages, or there are expectations when it comes to choosing a spouse. And this is actually a message that I've been hearing a lot over the last couple of days, where you're not necessarily marrying for true love or what's in your heart, but sort of what is expected of you. And so having that open and honest communication with yourself about, okay, I know I come from a culture where this is what's expected of me, but yes, I know I can learn to love this person and that's not an issue. But what do I really want? What do I really want in love? What does my heart really yearn for? Being open and honest with yourself will pave the way for this change that is inevitable anyway, all right? But open and honest communication is a must right now. It's a time for action based on your desires, and this is a very instinctual sort of move. It's not to say that you're reckless, but you kind of need to be willing to take a little bit of a risk here in making these changes. And again, when it comes to our desires, we tend to be a little impulsive, but more importantly, it is instinctual. So these changes that we are making are instinctual at this time. Do not, under any circumstances, run away from how you are feeling or from what you want. You may find, especially with that full moon square Jupiter transit that's going on at the same time, you may find the need to want to escape. You may find the need to want to be like, oh no, I don't really want this, or why do I want this? It's not good to want this. Don't run away from those feelings. Again, open and honest communication, beginning with yourself, is what is going to be super important. So don't run away from what you feel, whatever comes up, or what you truly want either. There's going to be an undertone of love in relationships, like I said before. Overcoming a feeling of stagnancy or feeling stifled or blocked. For some people, and this part of the message was very specific, this may have something to do with someone who has been blocked. So maybe you've been blocked on social media. Maybe you've been blocked on someone's phone. Not only is it a time to unblock, and I laugh because this very same thing happened to me the other day. So interesting. Yeah, it's time to unblock and perhaps get real with how you really feel about this person. Okay, maybe it's time to clear the air. It's not to say that you're going to go back to whatever relationship you had, but maybe it's time for some closure. Maybe it's time to clear the air. Either way, I feel like there are people who are going to be unblocking some people that they've blocked in the past. And for some, if this pertains to you, I feel like it has to do with a romantic relationship. So that is always interesting. Full moons usually tend to be interesting. Next message. This was a song that came to my head. It was that song that says, give a little bit. I'm not going to sing it because y'all don't want me to sing, trust and believe. But the lyrics are, give a little bit of your love to me. Okay. So it's the courage to be vulnerable in love and or matters of the heart. Now, this is where this particular message gets very specific. It says, especially matters of the heart with children. So Leo has a lot to do with childlike energy, children, and our inner child. So when it says especially with children here, this could either be children that you have or your inner child, right? And the message came through as parents finding it hard or challenging to express their emotions to their children because it wasn't like that for them growing up. Now, this new age parenting, I am not a parent, so I can't speak to it on a personal level, but from what I see, this newfangled parenting is very different from the parenting that someone in my generation experienced, right? It's a lot more open. It's a lot more, saying you're sorry when something's wrong. It's a lot more trying to understand your kids rather than just discipline or reprimand them, right? And so remember I said before, there's this detachment from institutions. There is this detachment from old, outdated ways or ways that are soon to become outdated. And parenting is one of those things. And so whether you're parenting actual children or you're parenting your inner child, this is about allowing yourself to be loved and allowing yourself to show love. Moving from your heart space, even though it may be difficult because it's not something that you're used to. Okay. And that's really important. It's this level of vulnerability. It's a level of opening up your heart where people can feel safe and secure and where they can feel true love. And this is from the parent-child dynamic. Again, whether it's a physical child or your inner child. Okay. Next message is creating peaceful and secure home environments that have to be heart-centered. This is also the change that may come about with this full moon in Leo, where it says love is the new currency / security. So rather than just have a big house, right? A house that's expensive, having a lot of money in the bank to have a secure family is part of it. But a major part of it in this new era, in this new generation, is having a home and a home environment that is secure with love. I know that may sound corny, but it's where we're headed. So get with the program, right? Being aware of that and making the change to help facilitate that is what may be brought on by this full moon in Leo. Okay. Then there is heart-centered work / heart chakra work. The need can present itself via physical ailments like a persistent cough or respiratory problems. And this is the time when you're going to begin addressing it and keep working at it, okay? Broken hearts are a thing, physically speaking. And even when we have heart-centered work to do, perhaps our heart chakra is blocked, the way that shows up typically is physical ailments in this portion of the body, right? Where your heart is. So it could present itself as throat chakra issues or throat issues, respiratory issues, especially if you're someone who has unprocessed grief. These are the kind of physical ailments that you may be suffering from. You're like, yo, why do I have this constant cough that never goes away? Or why am I all of a sudden having these respiratory issues? It may have a lot to do with heart chakra work that needs to be done. And so this full moon may illuminate this to you. And this is going to be the time when you start making those changes. Number 5, right? Making those changes to, I don't want to say fix, but I want to say heal your heart chakra. Okay. This is a very specific, and I'm not going to lie, weird message, but I will deliver it nonetheless. There's an emphasis on the mother-son dynamic, and particularly the Oedipus complex. Unhealthy attachment to a mother or a mother figure. Again, this is son to mother. Disdain, distrust, and aggression toward the father figure, whether the father figure was around or not. And feeling the weight of having to make everything happen, right? So if the father figure wasn't around, you may feel like you had to step up and be the man of the house, right? And all of the pressure that comes with that, especially if you're a child. And even if the father was in the picture, you kind of X'd him out of the picture and you felt like it was up to you to protect your mom. It was up to you to provide for your mom in whatever limited way you could, right? This whole situation may really come to light at this full moon in Leo and may be what needs to be healed, okay? I put in all caps, needs healing, okay? So again, very specific message, but I feel like that's a message that is definitely for someone, all right? It's time to adopt a different mindset to make things happen, and it's Pluto and Aquarius that's going to help spark this. And finally, being the captain of your own ship And you're the captain of your own ship that is led by your authentic self and what's really in your heart. So this change that is afoot at this full moon in Leo, again, it's being commandeered, or it's being directed by your authentic self and by what is in your heart, all right? I can't stress enough how pivotal a time in history this is. And although we're seeing a lot going on and it may seem like the world is going to hell in a handbasket, it's just purging. It's just a purging that needs to occur so that we can have and experience better. Pluto in Aquarius is doing it on a societal and a collective level. And this this full moon in Leo is going to help to activate it on a personal and internal level for us. Major happenings. All right, my loves. So that concludes this video on the upcoming full moon in Leo. I sincerely hope that you were able to get at least one important piece of information that you can use going into this full moon. For information on my products and services, you can find all of that in the description box below. Thank you so much for tuning in. I wish you nothing but complete illumination and your heart's truest desires with this full moon in Leo. Thank you so much, and I will see you in my next video. Take care.